So about 2 weeks ago, we celebrated, is it really our 8th?
8th, yeah.
I was going to say 5th. No. Time flies. Time really flies. So we celebrated it. And as Bonnie mentioned, I'm a Tiny Habits coach. And one of the biggest things that we teach people is how to create new behaviors without depending so much on willpower. And the magic secret sauce that we use is the whole idea of celebration. And after hearing Lena's talk, it brought me so many. First place, I really regretted the fact that had I really thought, I would have brought some pom-poms for us all to celebrate with. Just pass these around. Pass them around. Just pass them around. These are fun.
I like the colors of the new one yesterday.
Okay. Does everybody have some pom-poms? So, my first thought when I heard Lena speak was, oh, I should have brought pom-poms so that we could all celebrate. So let's all stand up and let's celebrate. Yay, we're 8 years old. Okay. Now you can stay standing. What are some other things we could celebrate today? There are lots of ones that we mentioned.
The weather. It's gorgeous. The weather.
Beautiful weather. Yay! How did the parties do last night? They won! Yay! MC won! Right. Now, while we're on this, I want you to think of one thing that you did this week that you didn't procrastinate on, you actually did a promise you kept to yourself, something that you did, like, of course, maybe all of us weren't as blessed as Bonnie with her opportunity, but think of something that you did that you are proud of. Now, I want you to celebrate that. I want you to say, yay, I did it. Yay for me. You notice the energy wasn't quite so high. I think we need to up that a little bit. Okay, now you can sit down. Celebration from a civilian point of view and from a spiritual point of view has many different layers. And I think you'll notice just by what we did in the past couple of minutes is how easy it was to celebrate events and other things outside us. And yet when it came to celebrating ourselves, we really had, most of us, except for Bonnie, most of us had to probably stop and act like, what can I celebrate? Or maybe some of us just skipped it and just went along and pretended. That's possible. But celebrating ourselves is difficult. It's different. And one of the most challenging things I do when I'm teaching my classes around St. Louis is teaching people the importance of celebration and of self-talk, positive self-talk. And today what I'd like to do is just share a couple of ideas about celebration and positivity and joy. Not from a, how would I say, our society tends to think that it's not cool to celebrate. You know, we're sort of cynical, and it's sort of silly, and we feel silly. And a lot of us who are of older age, more mature, were brought up being told, well, it's not nice to call attention to yourself. You know, don't be a show-off. And between society, that it's uncool to be, you know, happy and excited about yourself, and all those kinds of messages we get. When it comes to celebrating and acknowledging ourselves, it really takes a bit of extra energy. So, What about celebration and joy from a spiritual point of view? There are many religions in which celebration is the total loss of oneself into joy. In fact, in many ways, celebration is joy. But if you've ever seen people doing, like in Buddhist practice, group chanting, we've had one or two occasions here where we had, what's the name of the group?
Kirtans.
Kirtan, when we've done kirtan. Kirtan is one of the most wonderful things. We aren't used to it because it's not in our regular culture. But when you get into a room and you are joining in chant, all of a sudden you are lifted up from yourself into a higher consciousness. You can't be in a room of people all chanting the same things, especially if it goes on for 2 or 3 hours. I mean, you lose yourself. And to me, from a spiritual point of view, a lot of celebration is about moving to a higher place. It's an expression of pure joy, because when we are in a state of pure joy, ego is gone. Self-awareness is gone. We are just in a different kind of state. And we've had it. Most of us have experienced this with outside events. Like if you ever had the good luck to be, for instance, at one of the World Series games when the Cardinals actually won the game. I mean, that joy and the fact that it was with a whole community of people, how amazing that is. But from a spiritual point of view, there's a very interesting way to look at celebration. Instead of looking at it as a reward, what if celebration was actually the way to create a good life, instead of a reward for being good or bad? The traditional religion that most of us were brought up in was celebration and joy is what you get for being good. And it was religion's way of controlling society. I can still remember, and I've done this before, but I can remember, we were refugees in Hong Kong when I was a little girl. I was about in the 2nd or 3rd grade. And in the summer, it was so hot and so humid that they sent us all off to a Baptist summer camp that was on top of a mountain, which is Lantau, and which is now part of the bottom of that mountain, I think is the Hong Kong airport today. Anyway, we'd spend the summers up there, and it was a Baptist summer camp. And one of the favorite songs, I still remember to this day, and you all have heard it before, but I'm going to do it just for good emphasis. Oh, the bells of hell go ting-a-ling-a-ling, for you, not me. Not ting-a-ling-a-ling, not sting-a-ling-a-ling, but sing-a-ling-a-ling for me. And you're going to hear this from me probably every 2 years, because I think it points out. You know, the old religion was all about, are you good and you get to celebrate and be with God and be happy, or you're going to go to a place that you don't want to go. I can remember even as an art student, you know, the church was actually a socio-religious, political institution back in the days of medieval times. And I remember there was this one artist, his name is Harmonius Bosch, and he took great delight in doing these huge pictures just of people being tortured in hell. Dreadful. So here we are in the 21st century now. And here we are as a spiritual community. And instead of celebration being a reward, it really, for us as spiritual beings, it is an expression of joy. It is a sacred act when we think of it from a spiritual point of view. I read a lot while I was thinking about this particular subject. I read a lot of Esther Hicks and Abraham, and it is a great resource. And one of the things that Abraham says is, your emotions are your guidance system. When you feel good, it means you're aligned with Source. When you feel bad, you're out of alignment. It's that simple. Oh, I wish we could make it that simple every day. So, The first point about spirituality and about celebration for me would be that celebration is an expression of joy, and the more we celebrate all the little things, the more we are connected to spirit. And I am really happy to act, because I've been observing us over the past couple of years, and I have noticed a wonderful trend. Do you realize that this morning, 2/3 of the prayer requests were about celebrating and giving thanks for what we have?
Yeah.
That's not to say that there aren't many situations out there that need our prayers and people who need our prayers. The other thing that's really interesting to notice is that more and more we're talking about, instead of the situation that's negative, which just brings more of that negative situation into awareness, we are talking more about sending the grace, the hope, the peace, the kindness, the resources to that situation, rather than just focusing on awfulizing about the situation. So in many ways, our community itself is actually growing spiritually. And as a minister, I don't have a pom-pom here, but because I gave them all away. But I would just like to cheer for us, because I think we are also evolving as a community. We are growing and we are understanding in a deeper way what it means to be a spiritual being and how to bring spirituality into daily life. And one of the ways to do it is we don't have to always be prayerful, we don't have to always be meditating. We can use joy as a way of connecting with all the goodness that's in our lives. Every single one of us woke up today with a roof over our heads. There was food for us to eat. We had a conveyance to get to church. I mean, we are so blessed with so many, many, many gifts. And celebration is really, in many ways, when you look at it from a spiritual point of view, it can be actually mindfulness in action. Because celebration can mean to savor. In fact, I noticed even as a preacher's kid, my dad was an Episcopalian minister, that when it came to communion, they always talked about it, the celebration of communion. And do they do that in Catholic Church too? Do they talk about it as a celebration?
Yeah.
Does anybody know?
Yeah.
All right. And a celebration in that manner means to pause, to savor. So, good intentions there. But for us, as spiritual beings right now, I think if we want to bring more of that awareness, it is so easy in our society to just focus on the negative things. To be spiritual is to be able to savor in daily life all the good things. Think about that first sip of coffee that you had this morning, if you're a coffee drinker, or that first sip of tea. Or waking up and seeing the sunshine this morning. Savoring, actually savoring those things. And it doesn't come easy. I've got a mastermind group that we focus on different things with tiny habits. And the practice that we're doing this month is the whole idea of waking up in the morning and choosing one thing we are going to do that day that we are going to savor. Savoring brings us into the present moment. Savoring brings us into joy. Savoring brings us into awareness of all the good that we are surrounded with. And frankly, we get deluged with so much information nowadays from social media and from newspapers and from radio. I mean, there's just all this stuff coming at us. Being able to stop and celebrate and savor the good things, that is mindfulness in action. We don't have to be holy beings. We don't have to go and sit, on a rock, under a tree for years and years to attain spirituality. It's available to us in the moment. And it is available to us when we feel joy, when we feel gratitude. And it's available in tiny things. That sip of coffee in the morning, hearing a bird, going out and walking in meditation doesn't mean you have to be a holy being. It means you go out and you savor the trees, you savor the turning of the colors, you savor what's right in front of you. Small things. It doesn't have to be always huge things. It doesn't have to always be about winning the World Series. So celebration in many ways is mindfulness in action. And it's a muscle. It is something that we can grow. We have been brought up in a society and we are all endowed with these operating systems that tend to slant towards the negative to protect us. And that's understandable. But it is up to us, because we're spiritual beings and because we know we have a choice, to choose to look for the positive, to make a choice to savor all the gifts that we have. Joy isn't necessarily out there, it comes from the inside. And when it comes from the inside, that is our true spiritual nature. Here's a couple of thoughts of things that we can do to bring more of this awareness into our daily life. The first thing is, in the morning, choose one thing that you are going to savor that day, that you are going to do with great deliberation and great consciousness and awareness. Another thing, we all talk about gratitude. All right, I'm going to write 3 gratitudes at the end. That's not gratitude. To be aware of gratitude is when you write that thing that you are having gratitude for, is to stop, even if it's for 3 seconds. Close your eyes and remember the feelings of that thing that you are grateful for. Don't just make another intellectual list. Take the time to be aware. If you've read anything of any spiritual or I would say metaphysical writer, our guideline, the temperature taker, the thing that tells us whether we're in alignment is feelings, and the feelings of gratitude and openness and warmth and all of those kinds of things. That's when we're connected to spirit. So when we do the gratitude at the end of the day, think of it from a deeper level. Experience the feeling of gratitude instead of just doing it as an exercise. And then, when we're thinking about others who have difficult situations, rather than focus on the difficult situation, focus on what would you want Spirit to give or bring into that situation, instead of focusing on what we don't want more of. And that's such a simple thing. And yet we sometimes tend to forget because of our concern, understandably, for other people and for our concern for whatever they might be going through. But from a spiritual point of view, when you're praying for somebody who has a difficult situation, send them the things through Spirit that they need, which is usually things to do with how they're feeling, the resources they need, the spiritual gifts. So in closing, you're all taking these home today. I wish I could give them to everybody in our audience out in digital land. But mentally, keep these around as little reminders that spirituality isn't just about being somber and praying a lot and doing all the right things. That spirituality is an expression of God. And God expresses through joy, through gratitude, and through celebration. Thank you.